Council chambers, and welcome to members of the public and members of the press and councillors and staff this morning to this extraordinary meeting of the council, Thursday the 30th of April at 9 a.m. We're going live to the world.
Not live.
We're not live? We're recording. Okay, good as gold. Okay, item number one, I'd call for apologies. Do we have any apologies? Who's Councillor Harvey, I presume, will be on her way. I haven't heard that
She might be stuck at the bridge in traffic.
It was really bad.
What was that, Mr. CEO? Okay, probably for lateness, I would imagine. Apologies. Yeah. So could I have a mover, please, for those, please? Councillor Jollins, Councillor Lickling, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
It's against? Carried. Okay, item number two, any conflicts of interest on this meeting today? Nope. There have been none. Okay, we go to three. And we have our team aboard here this afternoon, this morning, sorry. Bright and breezy. Would you like to introduce them, Mr. CEO? Mr. Gareth Green, would you like to lead this off?
So, well, thank you, Your Worship. And yes, we've got the council officer team here who's been working on the project. So, so today is probably more about us being able to answer any questions that you may have. But as you're aware, we've been through two workshops now with you around the issues associated with this building, mainly around the health and safety issues that have been identified, being significant asbestos issues, some earthquake issues, and other health and safety issues, mainly around potential fire risk and some leaks, etc., in this building. So we've previously presented to you some options as we see it, and as our expert advisors have seen it and provided and presented to you. Those options were from a short or small scale fix up for the health and safety reasons, right through to demolish this current building and rebuild the building either here or somewhere else. The paper that you've got in front of you goes through those options, the pros and costs, and the durability elements to that. The recommendation that I've provided to you there is that you confirm that your preferred option to address the health and safety issues is the construction of a new building, and that you look at this current site as the site for the new building. I would note that the discussion through the workshop was for potential other sites, and particularly the discussion that councillors had was around the Great Lakes Centre site. I haven't recommended that in my recommendation because it isn't our recommendation as officers, but we have obviously talked through that in the paper. So if councillors were of a mind that they wish to go down that road, that would be up to you to then add that as a recommendation, but it's certainly not our recommendation as staff that you do that. And the other recommendations there are procedural. One is in terms of the costs of relocating the staff, which is going to have to happen regardless of the option that you take. And we are doing that and planning that so that we will be out of here in July this year. So that's happening regardless of the options, and then but that resolution is about the funding for that. And then the fourth resolution there is for that to be included in the consultation document for the annual plan. It's very tight timeframes for that. Obviously, we need to get the annual plan adopted by the end of this financial year, going into the next financial year. And the timeframes that we've got for that is submissions for a month, and then into hearing of submissions by yourselves early June, and then deliberations that second week of June. So really that's all. I'll take the rest of the item as read and just ready to answer any questions that anybody may have.
Okay, thanks, Gareth. Do your team want to add anything to that, Karen and Gareth? You okay? All right. Lovely. All right. Questions of the CEO.
Just a question regards
of regards of why we tend to be in this rush now. The information that we recently received from, I think it was from ClearSafe, they did an investigation in August of last year. The Becker one was 2012, and yet now suddenly, right now, we're having to make quite a big decision. Why wasn't this looked at in previous years?
So the asbestos is the key driver here. So the Becker report, yes, we've known about the earthquake risks of the building for some time. The only reason that we've got a period of time that we can deal with that. The only reason we're suggesting that you deal with it now is that that you have to deal with the asbestos risk in any event. The asbestos risk was identified when we went to paint the building, and the risk, or the rush now, I guess, is that the information that we've got, which we provided to you, shows that asbestos, it's not just that asbestos is present, it's that it's friable and that it's starting to deteriorate. So that becomes a significant health and safety risk for staff, public and the environment, and that's the reason for the risk. So regardless of your decision in terms of what the ultimate form of the building is, whether it's a full rebuild, a partial rebuild, this site or other sites, we can't expose our staff to that risk. So in an ideal world, we would have our staff out of here today. I make no bones about that. From a practical perspective, obviously we need to be finding alternative location, getting it fitted out, technology, etc., and we need to continue business. So hence that July date that I've given you.
Can I just follow then up that one on the one to do with the asbestos? There were 37 sites looked at, of which 24 were clear. So when we look at, if we're going to say partially rebuild, has that cost been factored in?
The partial rebuild would be removing the asbestos of this front section, because all the outside cladding is asbestos, and that would just deal with health and safety risk. We didn't upgrade we did upgrade the customer services. So the customer services area would also be upgraded in that partial rebuild.
So that's been factored in to a partial rebuild at 8.5 million.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Cousins.
Chair, thank you, Gareth, and your team. I suppose I had some concerns, and this relates back to Turangi actually, and I've asked this before about, and this goes on the back of what Councillor Body just said about urgency and timeframes. Although I'm well aware of the legalities and the danger of exposing people, but our buildings in Turangi are older than yours. They have asbestos in them. They have rusted out roofs. They're leaking through sockets and light fittings. There's grass growing out of the walls, but there's no sense of urgency to get our staff out of there. And we talk about these things like creating a welcoming environment and designing an inclusive and flexible council chamber with appropriate technology. We've been told we have to wait 3 years for ours, and they're going to rush through with Taupos. It does concern me that, for my town, we've been overlooked, and although I understand the severity of it all, it's a little bit unfair, I have to say.
So I guess the health and safety risk of Turangi office is and has been continually looked at, and the very same situation would apply down there, despite the fact that we've only got 2 or 3 staff. Their health and safety is just as important as the 150 that are here, 125 that are here. So we would be dealing with that in exactly the same way, but the risks haven't been identified to be the same as here. So the asbestos in the building, but not at the same state as the asbestos in this building. So the risks are significantly reduced. A lot of buildings, and I'd say most buildings of this age have asbestos, and that in itself is not a problem. Most residential garages in town would have asbestos. That in itself isn't a problem. The problem is only when it's friable, which this is, and it becomes unstable, which this is becoming unstable because of the fact that the building has passed its date in terms of painting and maintenance. So that's created the issue.
I understand that, thank you, Gareth, but my concern is that we're talking about health and safety and the broad spectrum of things, and our people in Turangi are exposed to safety issues every day. Their eyesight has not been touched for 30 years. And you can stand in there with tourists and the water is coming through the light sockets and the pools of water on the floor. we're talking about this being a safety issue, that is a safety issue. I'm asking why there's two standards about the sense of urgency.
I don't think there is.
That does concern me.
I don't think there is. So we are, and Gareth's team are continually working on, if you take the eyesight as an example, continually working on that and are keeping it to a standard that is appropriate and is meeting those health and safety requirements there. As you're aware, there is a project there now for a little bit more work there with the volcanic activity centre, etc. So that will solve those issues.
It's a patch-up job again for us, and that's totally off topic, but it's all relevant to the safety issues that we're talking about.
Again, I mean, my primary requirement is to ensure that the staff in these buildings are safe, and I'm comfortable that the staff in the Turangi buildings are safe. It's not ideal, absolutely, and I'd agree completely with you, but they are safe. I can't say the same about the staff in this building at the current time.
Thank you, Gareth.
Any other questions? Councillor Park.
Not so much a question, but I totally understand what Councillor Cousins is saying, and I think that it shows that we've got all these amazing opportunities in our district to sort of get things right and future-proof. I see this, I'm all for a complete rebuild. I think that the fact that we're sitting in a sort of a house with additional add-ons after add-ons is not appropriate. It needs to be more of a corporate structure. And having emergency management as a standing committee of council, I think it's important that we do upgrade to the IL4 as far as earthquake strengthening goes. And I also think we need to stop looking at this as you've got the plush office on the lakefront. We need to look at having a fantastic civic centre where people feel welcome and engaged to come in and be more involved with council. So I just think that there's only so many ways that you can slap lipstick on a pig. This pig now has a chronic illness and it needs to go.
Thank you, Councillor Park. Any other questions? Just, Gareth, could you clarify, if the rebuild was confirmed? Is there any external parties that would come into the building? Have you had any negotiations there, or has anyone showed interest? Like I'm thinking the regional council, the hub, those sorts of places.
So too early to confirm 100%, because obviously until you've made your decision, we can't do that. But but initial discussions show that there is interest for other like-minded council activities to be here, which obviously there would be a saving in terms of that. In terms of where we're currently, council might be paying rent to private providers, or as you say, like at a regional council, we're currently looking for alternative locations. So depending on our will and our desire as we go through the process, it could be designed in so that it, I guess Councillor Park used the word civic building, that it's more of that civic heart, I guess.
Yeah. So you'd view it as a community building, not so much a council building as such. Yeah.
The way that I see it is that there's a area of the building which is public, which is public meeting spaces. It's the chamber and the activities around the chamber that go with that. There's the customer service experience that you're able to provide, and then there's the administration stuff which should go on behind the scenes. But the public space is probably the more important part of that space.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Williamson. Oh,
Yeah, thank you,
John.
Thank you, Mayor David. Just basically wanted to support Councillor Parks and obviously the obvious reasons for having to move from here. Obviously, I'd still go back to the future a wee bit. When I go back to the old Memorial Hall, when it was decided to build a Great Lakes Centre, there obviously wasn't universally accepted. It was talking about the white elephant, but I think just basically what I'm trying to say is we've got to be thinking of a forward-thinking, proactive council, just to improve the immunity and the quality of the experience for all the staff, the employees, staff, and the general public at large. So I really support the proposal for the rebuild back on this site.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Williamson. Any other? Hi. Morning,
Morning.
Councillor Truman.
Apologies for lateness.
Sorry, yeah, we'll slightly amend the minutes. Councillor Jellins. Roseanne.
Thank you. I guess for me, just a comment and also just a request when we go through the consultation phase. I made a request when we went through the workshop. For me, I wanted to really look at a couple of options. I understand, and I think you'll get complete support in this room, that we need to do something, and we need to do something with a sense of urgency. But in terms of the options, whether we stay here or we move somewhere else, I really wanted to have that discussion with the community so that we could get a sense for a feel for how people see this building and the purpose of it. And so for me, I'm feeling that some of the balancing of the advantages and the disadvantages for the different sites feels slightly, I have to be frank, quite biased in my view. Like, I'll give you one example. We talk about disadvantages for staying here. You haven't listed any. One of the disadvantages of staying here is we lose the opportunity to sell this land and then offset those costs. So I'm just asking, as we go through this discussion, that we just balance up some of these things a little bit more and have a discussion. And in the consultation, I'd just like to really understand from the staff the format for that, how we intend to have that discussion, because I hear in this room us as councillors talking about our aspirations for this building, but I would really like to understand what the communities are as well, so that we feed that and understand that in this process.
So I guess if I can just answer some of that,
Sorry, it was quite long-winded.
No, that's fine. That's fine. So totally acknowledge, and I think I did at the start, that that in your workshop you talked about other sites, and I've only brought back to you this site. And that's been based on our professional opinion as officers in terms of when we did look through those other sites and the pros and cons for that, and the knowledge that we have of the community feedback of those other sites, in particular the site down at the Great Lakes Centre. So as officers, we can only recommend to you what our professional opinion is. It's up to you now that if you wish to add other sites, then that's totally legit and an appropriate thing for you to do if the majority feel that way. But it certainly isn't our recommendation to do that. We do believe that this is the best site for the office for a number of reasons, and they're articulated there. We spoke in the workshop about the value of the site and the ability to sell, but also the reduced value because of the very presence of this building. So all of those things combined, the fact of, and I don't want to in a public setting talk about dollars of how much we would get from this site in case you do want to go down that line, but given the dollars that we feel and that the experts that have been advising us, the valuers feel that we would get out of this site, we don't believe that it's a responsible thing to do to sell the site and move somewhere else for the return that you get. Hence, you've got the recommendation that you do. The consultation part, I'll probably look to Lisa. Do you want to talk through the consultation document and what that would look like?
Councillor Cousins, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just through the chair, just backing on to that. I understand what you're saying, Gareth, but even in the financial strategies of option 5, we never even mentioned about the significant dollar value of the land. Even if worst case scenario was $3 or $4 million, we're talking about a $15 million rebuild. That's like a fifth to a quarter of the funds already paid for. And that, to me, that's a significant portion of what is our financial strategy. It should have been included there as an advantage. I suppose also I'm really concerned if we don't go out and openly consult, we'll end up with the fiascos we did with Kinloch and the canopies in Turangi just recently, where we didn't consult properly. I support Councillor Jollins, and the process has to be open, and we have to gauge public interest 10 years on. It has to happen. That's my view.
Because, and further support of that comment too, affordability is something that we need to factor in. My concern is the cost to the community moving forward over the years ahead. We are talking about rate increases to cover this. We are facing market conditions where interest rates are going to rise significantly in the next few years. So I think we just need to balance all those factors out when we make these decisions as well.
So just on that point, sorry, through the chair, to Alan. So we're talking about this will be a 2% rate rise if we proceed to do a $15 million rebuild. That's on every ratepayer in the district, correct? And so on top of what is our expected rate increase going to be in the 2017-18 year?
It's a difficult one in that some of those costs will be spread over the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So yes, the cumulative effect will be 2%. It's not necessarily 2% in any 1 year. We do have a financial strategy which you will be reviewing as part of the LTP, and that is the local government inflation index plus 1%. So that's what we're trying to live with at the moment, and unless that's changed, that's what we have to live within.
In a perfect world, would you suggest that maybe we're looking at 3 to 4% increases over?
No?
No.
It's really about also how you plan the rest of your program to make it into a place which still sits within your financial
We're
strategy.
going to have to cut elsewhere to do this.
No, not cut, but is the phasing and the way that you undertake your business to be able to do this, and the savings that you get from doing this through operational savings. So I guess just also following on from that, one of the things in terms of costs is that that it's what we've got here and what we've provided to you is that circa $15 million for the total rebuild here. The site that you talked about in the workshop as being your other preferential site, we found it really hard as officers to come up with any idea of what the cost of that would be. We knew that would be a whole lot more expensive than the 15 million, and we knew that it would be a whole lot more to the extent of maybe half again, if not more, because you're having to add to the Great Lakes Centre, because you just have uncertainties. You're not dealing with a fresh site and a new building. You're dealing again with like what you would be with another build here of adding things on. So that's where we struggled, and without spending a whole lot of time and money getting architects and quantity engineers, we got to the point where we just couldn't articulate to you to be able to fairly provide what those costs would be on those other sites. If it was on another greenfield site, say a car park in town, then again you would have to replicate the car parks, and so there would be a cost of doing that. But we don't have the dollar figures because we don't have the architects or the quantity surveyors' plans to know how much that would be, other than to be able to say that it would be more than what you'll be paying here. And so given that, we really took the view that this building, a council building or a civic building, has been on the site for 50 years. And it's served the community very well in that time. So we really took the view that the founding fathers of the town probably got it about right. And so given that we knew what the dollars were, this is why the recommendation is that we come back here.
Through the chair, but I'm confused because you're saying about you don't know the parameters of what it's going to cost to change down there, but we're not even factoring what it's going to cost for us to deconstruct these buildings in any of this either. You know, these expenses there, it's like we're picking and choosing what we want to deal with. That's what. Yeah, I understand. And here you're saying, you said down if we go down to the Great Lakes Centre, we can't really work out how much extra it's going to cost us to fit in with those buildings and etc. But does it say in here about selling the land, and if we sell the land, how we could save money on deconstructing this building if we just sold it lock, stock and barrel? That should form part of this discussion, shouldn't it?
Through the chair, can I just say that there are a lot of unknowns. For example, if you reduce the footprint of this building, then land behind the building is available for sale. We've got no idea what that would be or the value. So all we're talking about is the bigger picture thing here.
Yes.
And then
I know, for instance, Alan, but it's like in here, reading these papers, it's just like there's a lack of information. Yeah.
So what we've given you is as much information as we can give at this point to be able to make the high level decision, and I believe enough information for you to make the recommendations or the decisions that we've asked in the recommendations, otherwise I wouldn't have put them to you. We know how much it's going to be to deconstruct this building, and we know how much how much impact having this building on here will have if we put the site to sale with the building on. Frankly, if we were to sell the site and move, it's probably going to be better for us to deconstruct the building and sell the site as a vacant piece of land than to sell the site and building as one.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Councillor Tully.
Could I just follow this bit of the discussion? Then I want to get onto the earthquakes factor. I made the comment that suddenly we delivered with a scenario that we've got to make a decision on, and yet we've already started doing our annual plan decision making, where at the moment we've got Alan, what would we be looking at for rate increases for
the annual plan, about 2.4%.
Okay, we've got 2.4 now. We're saying to the people there's going to be another 2% on top of that.
No.
No, so we need to get really clear that this isn't us saying 2% in this annual plan. What we're saying is that and if you look at the recommendations, it's only talking about the philosophical elements, with the cost of the move being in the annual plan. The costs if you make this decision and the decision is to rebuild totally on the site, most of the costs of that that decision wouldn't fall until first year of your LTP, and in fact even into the next one, because you're talking about a 3-year design construction phase. So the cost will be phased from this year, where you've got a surplus, right through for the next 3 years.
But eventually that cost is going to be borne by the ratepayer.
Cumulatively, it'll get to a 2%, around about a 2% rates increase, because yes, absolutely, the ratepayer has to pay eventually, because no one else will. So it's it'll be loan funded, and then that's that 2% impact on rates.
Could follow that through then with the one to do with the earthquakes in the Becker report. The expert there will tell us the main problem is this particular piece of the building that we're sitting in now. Is that correct? All the other areas make L2. Under the Becker thing, this is the area of the major concern.
This is the major concern.
Right. So therefore, if this area here was redeveloped, we're looking at 8 million.
Which was the
Or
option
less.
2.
That's option 2.
Yeah, which we put here.
Okay, thank you, councillors. Did you want to, Lisa, did you?
I'll get Ariel to talk you through what
Okay.
we're required to do from the legislative
Of course,
point
yeah.
with regards to the document.
Okay, thanks, Cyril.
So the consultation document will be prepared following the recommendation that the resolution passed today, and that information will then be included in the consultation document for all of the public comment on the month of May. The consultation document will use this paper as the basis of that information. So it's been taking notes in terms of some of the comments that you've made in terms of things you'd like to see. So we can incorporate those, and that will come to you on the 26th of April for adoption.
All right, any other questions?
Quickly, David.
Sorry.
So at this point in time, we're looking at doing an 8-page A4 document, so it's going to contain quite a bit of extensive information. We haven't got into planning any other consultation activities at this point in time because we're waiting on your decision, and we will be guided by you. It will be your consultation. So you guide us as to what you would like to see, us, whether it's discussions with the community or whatever that may be, and then we'll go away and simulate that.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. All right, any other questions or comments? Okay. There's a suggested recommendation there. Can I call for a mover? On page 3.
I'll second it.
Moved by Councillor Park, seconded by Councillor Rankin. Does anyone else want to talk and support?
I'd like to move an amendment.
Amendment, yep.
And I'm not sure what the exact wording would be, but I'm very keen to look at option 2, which is to upgrade this particular area of the building to the earthquake standard and the refurbish it of the downstairs area and even this chamber. So I'd move that amendment.
You've got to put the first
Okay.
resolution.
So we'll just lay that one on the table at the moment, Councillor Body, and we have a mover for the recommendation there by Councillor Park, seconded by Councillor Rankin. Could I ask who is in favour of that, please? Raise your hands. Okay, recommendation is passed. Thank you very much.
Didn't ask for any against.
Any, would you like
Well,
to?
you didn't ask whether anyone against, you just...
Yeah, okay. Was anyone against?
I didn't put my hand up because
Okay.
I just feel...
Would you like that recorded?
Yeah. So I feel
So Councillor-
not that I'm against the building at all,
Yep.
every building, I just don't think this is the right site for us.
So those against, Councillor Body, Councillor Cousins.
Councillor Truman, yeah, I think we should be putting it out to the community options.
Thank you very much. The
Can I
recommendation is
just
passed.
ask Ariel maybe, you talk about this consultation that's going to take place. What are we actually consultating on? We're going to go to the people and say, we have decided for a complete rebuild. We're not going to say, we've got a couple of sites to look at, do you want a partial rebuild? It's a fait accompli. What is the consultation actually going to mean?
No, the consultation is going to go and say, council has this information that it has looked at. Its preferred option is this one. However, here's all the other things they looked at through that process. Please let us know what you think around those choices. So the community will be able to come back and say, either I support the councillor's preferred option, or here's something else that I thought you might like to have looked at. So,
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, councillors. Item number 4, confidential business, is there? No? Okay. Okay, thank you, councillor. Thank you, members of the public, and thank you, members of the press. The meeting is closed.